I'm so excited that we're here today. We're talking about working while homeschooling and why just fitting it in is actually a recipe for disaster. Because I was earlier this week just poking around and I saw a post from a mama who wants to start homeschooling next year. And she has a 9-year old daughter. And she says, I'm just thinking I can only do it after work because I have a really demanding job, which some of us do. It's totally normal. And she says, so I can only do it after school. And I was thinking about using the 4-H curriculum and then using Outschool as supplementary courses. And she was asking for other options or if that was some other resources that she could use. And while I understand that that seems like a good plan, it actually on paper it looks really good, it actually is a recipe for disaster long term and even short term, to be honest. And I work with a lot of homeschoolers who work, who own businesses. A lot of the families that I work with are like that. And it is just common today. So it's totally understandable. And guess what? You can do it, by the way. You can work either part-time, full-time, and homeschool. You have to be very intentional though. Here's what I mean by that. This mama was saying, I'm going to homeschool and I'm going to think about really where am I going to fit it in? Now, if you know me at all, there's a big difference in what she said and what I teach and what I'm on a mission to change, which is exactly that mentality. That mentality of we're just got to do school, we got to do learning, and then we can do our life. See how that's different? You imagine that what's happening with her, she's coming home from a day of work and she's tired. Of course, if her especially if her job is demanding, she's exhausted. Mama's exhausted, and the 9-year-old is been doing I don't know what during the day, just playing maybe, and that was just totally fine. And then we got to get dinner, we got to get learning time. Do you see what's you already see it. I know you do. You already see what's going to happen, right? We already see what's going to happen. We need to have structure, yes. When we are homeschooling and we're working or we own a business, we need to have structure. I own a business. I've been homeschooling with this business and working on my business for the last 5 years. And I'm not going to say it hasn't been a balancing act because it has, but I've had to be super intentional about where I spend my time and how we're spending our time together. Is a really, really big difference in we're just trying to fit it in versus being intentional about how learning works. I also have come to understand after homeschooling for a long time that I know how learning works. And it's not separate. It's not separate. It can be separate. Of course, it can be separate. That's how school does it, right? We go to school, we come home. I did a whole podcast episode on this. And if you want to listen to that, go back. It was just a few weeks ago. But having separation in our learning time in our life and what that does to our family, I'll talk about it a little bit more. But I understand as a working mom, as a somebody who owns a business, it's easy to want to outsource all of it. And it makes sense to outsource to curriculum, to outsource to outschool classes or other opportunities. I totally get it. But we have to watch what we're doing and the message that we're sending about learning to our kids. So it's easy when we do that to get into managing mode. I know you see that when we are in that mode of like, we just got to get through it. We just got to get our learning done. I hear that so often from parents, even parents who don't work. I hear it from parents a lot that, oh, we just got to get our learning time in. Oh, we just didn't have enough time for learning time today. And what they're thinking is totally normal. It's the educational should that I talk about a lot. That shoulding, that classes, workbooks, textbooks, those kinds of things, curriculum, that goes that's real learning. And then the other learning, the unimportant learning is we're still learning, but it's just not important. See, that's really, really important for us to understand, especially if we're working, we're owning a business while we're homeschooling. We have to be intentional about the message that we're sending. And every time we try to fit it in and just get through it, how do you think that's going to go? And some of you might be experiencing that. I talk to a lot of parents that are doing that, that don't even have a time issue. But especially when we have a time issue, we really, really have to be intentional because managing is just school at home. We're just doing that separation. It's the same thing. It's school at home. And what happens when we do that, okay, so 1 week down the road, I could see 1 or 2, maybe even 3 weeks, her daughter's gonna be like, "Oh, I'm home. This is fun." There'll be a little bit of novelty there. And then I can see 2 to 3 months down the road, and trust me, I have seen this actually play out in families all the time. 2 or 3 months down the road, there's a little bit of resistance happening. I don't really wanna do that. I'm tired. Why do we have to do this so late? This isn't fun anymore. And mom feels stress. And then the kids feel stressed. And then mom feels stressed some more, and love of learning drops, and it continues to drop. That's what I call the homeschool breakdown trap, and we just keep continuing through this. I did that in the very beginning when I was box checking, when I was just trying to get through things, and it didn't turn out well for us. We were both crying every day for within the first few weeks. Well, what happens further down the road is even more important for us to think about, because further down the road, within a year, 9 to 12 months, I would even say 6 to 12 months later, mom's thinking, "This is too hard. I can't do this. We're fighting all the time. We're arguing. Homeschooling was supposed to be fun, and it's not. And I don't know if I can keep doing this." And I see and talk to parents on the verge of quitting all the time. I don't know. It just wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought it was going to be better. And maybe she's just better in school. Maybe we'll just go back to school. Because at least then I didn't feel responsible. Does that hit home a little bit for you? I'm so sorry. But I just want to call your attention to the managing results. And I did talk about this in another podcast just recently as well. Even last week we talked about it. So thinking about the managing role and that constant pressure of that, keeping just fitting it in, just fitting it in. And especially when we're busy, that gets higher and higher and higher. I was just talking with a homeschool dad actually that was saying kind of the same thing. He said, when we were in school, we were feeling that pressure because we were doing things after school and we didn't have any time together. The kids didn't have time to be kids. We're just doing things. We're just checking the boxes. And so he ended up homeschooling because he was like, "Man, I got to give these kids a better education. I got to give these kids a different learning experience and ability to be kids and to have connections with the family." So so important. And the real loss there is the family connection. When you're trying to go, 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 go and fit it all in, there's no time for that. Just like this dad said, there's no time for that family connection. He said his wife didn't even get to see the kids that much because she was working full time. And then they'd be going off to all their activities and everything. And it would just be all separate. We don't want that. One of the biggest benefits of homeschooling that most people don't talk about is the connection that you can have with your kids and that relationship that you can have. That amazing close relationship where your kids tell you everything. They ask for your inputs. You talk about stuff, you explore together. That's the beauty of homeschooling. It doesn't have to be like that. It only happens intentionally. Tons of families, working or not, I see this happening where we are just managing and trying to fit the learning in. And then we feel pressure when it doesn't, right? Because ultimately, we want to spend time with our kids. So then maybe a few days we sacrifice that, right? We sacrifice that we don't need to learn, we don't need to do the learning, quote unquote, today. We can just hang out, right? Because we want to spend time with our kids. And then we feel guilty about not doing it. And then that pressure gets put on us tomorrow. We get put, we, it gets, our kids feel it. Our kids feel it, and it lowers love of learning and makes everything harder. Everything harder. Remember, when love of learning is low, everything is hard. When love of learning is high, everything is easier. I've been in both places. Both places. Trust me. Trust me. Also, we want to think about when we're managing, there's no curiosity. There's not that we're not going to end up with lifelong learners because we're just trying to fit it in. If we don't if How many people went to high school, you went to all the way through school and you're like, "I'm never reading a book again." Right? Because you had to. It's the had to part. And what we want to think about is when we're mentoring, when we're sending a different message about learning, it's not separate, it's together. It's part of life. I'm not saying we don't use curriculum. I'm not saying we don't use resources like OutSchool and classes like that. What I'm saying is that we need to use them intentionally as resources, as part of our learning. And learning happens everywhere all the time. I love that. I love it. Learning happens everywhere all the time. And we really have to ask ourselves, especially when we're working, if we're owning a business, how do we think learning happens? Where does it happen? When does it happen? How does it happen? What do we use to learn? Those are the questions. And we can use lots of different things, lots of different things. And we have to ask ourselves, what is the outcome that we want? What is the experience that we're trying to create? Are we trying to create an experience just like they had at school, except they're at home now? So maybe the social pressure is off, but we still have the same learning thinking. And it's not just the kids, it's us too. I had it for a long time, that educational should, thinking about all the shoulds. And we just got to fit it in versus a totally different way. We have to shift our thinking to a totally different way. And that's what I teach a lot of in the Love of Learning Reset in our Inspiring Lifelong Learning Academy. That is the very first place everyone starts, because we all need to reset our brains about what learning is, where it happens, how we fit it into our life. We need to rebuild those learning expectations. I was just talking to one of our fabulous new members in our academy today, and she was saying that they are having a complete blast. She literally just pulled her kids out of school less than a month ago, and they're having a blast. Right now they're camping, and she says, we have learned so much, like way more learning than ever, because we're thinking about it differently. I just love to hear that our kids are learning about like fishing and catching, casting nets, and how to, catch crabs and how to process them. They caught a stonefish yesterday, and they researched all about it. And they're also, because they're in a small place, they are learning about family work and learning about how to function as a family together in a very small place. They're in a travel trailer, and it's so fun. I'm so proud of them. She's having an absolute blast. I love it. It's so great. And guess what? She's a business owner. She works, and she actually works and owns a business. She owns two businesses. So it's really amazing to watch her balance that already, and to change that mindset and change that thinking. It's so fun, because when we're a mentor and we're not managing, a manager schedules things. A manager is the have tos. A manager is the one that owns the learning. I talked about this in a previous episode. A mentor asks questions, a mentor guides, a mentor gathers resources, and a mentor gives the ownership over to the child, to the student, and they own their own learning. I love that. I think it's so amazing. Seriously, that's so amazing when it happens. I've experienced that. And right now, within less than 4 weeks, she's already experiencing that in just a little bit of time. I love that. And guess what? She owns two businesses. So it's really, really amazing. So we have to think about, do we go do learning, or is learning part of what we do? That's a totally different experience, right? It's so awesome when you think about it that way. That was one of the things that my son said when we did a podcast together. And I asked him, "What did we do to help you become a lifelong learner?" And he was like, "I don't know. It's just what we do." It's just what we do. It's just what we do. And how that looks as a mentor is very different than a manager making the schedule, saying you have to do this many pages, saying let's get through our math, we just have to do this because it's what we have to do, versus a mentor that doesn't let necessarily, there's still some things we need to do, but we have a why involved. We have conversations about learning. We ask questions about learning. We also involve the student. And it's beautiful when we can put that all together. Now we can really build a lifelong learner when they have ownership. You will not build a lifelong learner if they don't own the learning. Does that make sense? They have to own it. It has to be theirs. They have to understand that their education is theirs and have to want it. And that only happens when love of learning is high. You can do that while you're working. You just have to be very deliberate about the messages that you're sending. And this mama, I honestly hope she comes to one of our master classes, or she gets in touch with me, because I don't want to see her post again in 6 months and say, man, this is way harder than I thought. I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. I'm going to send her back to school. There was a reason why she took her out of school in the first place. And it was probably a good reason. So we have to think about the long term aspect of just fitting learning in versus actually making it part of just what we do. And it can include lots of different resources. But when we're busy, we have to be very intentional with our time. This has been such a amazing discussion today. I feel like I just had to get this out there because I know there are a lot of moms working. There's a lot of moms who are business owners. There are a lot of families who are business owners. And I want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and not setting yourself up for, 3 months down the road, this is too hard. 6 months down the road, this is too hard. And I'm not going to do this anymore, because you can do it. It's possible. And I am so passionate about helping you through it, for sure. One thing I want to share with you that is going to really help you, give you some different perspectives on learning, is next Wednesday, which by the time this will come out on the podcast, it will be next Wednesday, or it will be in 2 days. Wednesday the 13th. But if you're watching this live right now and you're watching it on YouTube, it is going to be next week. But the 13th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, I am bringing together 5 of some of my most favorite podcast guests, and they're very curated for a specific discussion that we're going to have about homeschooling and homeschooling with confidence. It's a roundtable discussion we're having, and it is going to blow your mind. One of the best things I love about these events is that I'm going to ask them a question, and then you're going to hear 5 different perspectives. Actually 6, because I'm going to give my perspective too. So you're going to hear lots of different perspectives about the same topic. Oh, and you will see something that, like, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that totally resonated. Oh, now I know why. I get it. It's super fun. I hope you join us. It's free to attend. I'm putting the link in all the show notes and all the comments so you'll be able to register for that and join us in that discussion. I hope you're there. And if this resonated with you at all today, please like, share, and subscribe whenever you can, because there's a lot of families that need to learn this, and there's a lot of families that are struggling that don't need to. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week.